my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. This is my third video in a series of videos that I'm recording at one time that will be sort of trickled out in how I post them. But this one is my end of June, update for Big Book Summer 2024, although this is the first year that I've taken part. So, I finished reading, The Perfect King, or listening rather, to The Perfect King by Ian Mortimer. I have the Kindle book as well, and I was going to kind of switch back and forth, but the one point where I decided, I'm just going to kind of read a little bit Kindle, my Kindle book actually had parts of it missing. It looked like there was some sort of error in the text and it didn't make much sense in the section I was at, so I just had to continue listening to it anyway because I just needed it to get proper context. So that was a little disappointing. The Kindle book had its issues. But Ian Mortimer's Perfect King about Edward the Third, I believe. Wait. Yes, Edward the Third. Was quite enjoyable. It was really cool to hear about the beginning of the 100-Year War. His ending, even though I knew that, it was kind of sad how he's kind of treated by his mistress at the end, and how really after his long period of time of the respect that he had built up as a warrior and even as a politician and a ruler, how he lost some of that respect as he got older and he started losing some of his mental acuity. So it's just kind of a sad ending for someone who worked so hard for his reputation, and who had brought England the farthest it had been in quite many years. So, it's not proper English. Quite a few years. So it was a bit of a sad ending to a really impactful and, exciting life. So, yeah, this was really interesting to read, coming off the tales of the book about his father, Edward II, and then prior to that, I read about John of Gaunt's illegitimate sons and their family, the House of Beaufort. So that was interesting, just to kind of read a little bit out of order, doing House of Beaufort, then Edward I think I did William Marshall, then I did Edward I, then I did House of Beaufort, then I skipped over to Edward II, and then Edward III. So kind of in a mixed up order, but I got to cover a good portion of that era in several generations this year, which is kind of cool. And it'll be honestly continuing in that trend if I read, say maybe about Margaret Beaufort, or even about the Tudors in general. That'll continue down that family line. I had really wanted to read Brothers York, and I didn't get around to it. I think maybe next year I'll do that. Maybe at the beginning of next year's Big Book Summer, because that's a thick book as well. Now, I haven't finished yet any of my other books for Big Book Summer. I need to continue, with Sword of Shannara. I read about a chapter at a time, but I'm not really in a rush for it. Just kind of, meandering with it. This book is one that I've reread multiple times in fairly recent memory, so I'm not in a rush for it. I'm just slowly enjoying the process. And I do love the way these pages are. They're the kind of rough page that just kind of give that old world book feeling to me. Um, I don't think I have anything new to add for disjointed. It interestingly mentions a physical therapy book with good at-home exercises for people with Ehlers-Danlos. It's another 400-page book that maybe I'll look into. I need to see more about reviews because it's very expensive. But as someone who cannot handle going to physical therapy well, it sends me into a mast cell flare. I just get very lightheaded and get to the point where I either am not able to function or by the time I get home, I'm wiped out the rest of the day. So going to physical therapy hasn't always worked well for me in the past. So I am very tempted to try to see, read more into reviews about this book recommended, the physical therapy book recommended by the physical therapist in this book, and see if maybe it's a good option for me. And this book, in case I didn't mention it in the last couple times I talked about it, this is not just any one author. The person who's credited for this book, Diana Joven, actually collected I'll just say chapters written by individuals in different specialties. So we have a geneticist in here, a physical therapist. I think the next section is this is written by. Okay, so this doctor deals with TMJ, which I actually also do have. Now, personally, I think those symptoms worsened after I had my C1, C2 fusion, which apparently is not an uncommon thing. Then the next one, you're talking to a cardiologist who deals with dysautonomia. So this is it's like basically you have all your specialists in one room, which, doesn't happen. And you get to pick all of their brains, at least on basic topics, and gives you a place to go from there. Oh, there's Chopra for pain. I know someone who sees Chopra. But yeah, good book. Haven't done a lot of reading of it recently. I think mostly because I'm headed into an appendix for the PT section, and I should just read that appendix. It's like one page. Okay, it's 2 pages. No, it's 1 page because then it goes on to the footnotes. I should just read that, and then it'll be on the next chapter. Anyway, what I've been trying to focus more on, because I am toward the end of the medieval quarter for Historathon, is I've been trying to focus on the Lindisfarne Gospels. I'm not trying to finish this before the end of Historathon quarter 2, but I'd like to get a good portion of it finished. I currently am on page 99. We are now getting more into how who might have written the Lindisfarne Gospels. We're talking about glossing, which I didn't realize it sounds almost like annotating, but just like a special term for it back then, where they would write explanatory notes, that kind of thing. So this is cool, finally getting a little bit farther along. Now I have in here my where I'm at marked by this medieval cow. Then I have this medieval cat marking my footnotes at the end of the chapter. Would that be endnotes? That'll be footnotes. And then I have the bibliography marked by my sparkly sleeping bunny on books, magnetic bookmark. I really do love magnetic bookmarks because I have a very bad tendency of dropping my books. And even though I told myself that I wouldn't start any other books until I finished more, I did know that if I finished an audiobook, I was going to start another audiobook. So initially I was going to start one on the Reformation by Eamon Duffy on audiobook, but for whatever reason it wasn't hitting right when I was trying to listen to it when I wanted to listen to it. So I was like, okay, well, let me listen to something else. I can always go back to that Eamon Duffy book later if I have time. So instead I have started Rush. It's by Stephen Fried. It's spelled like fried. Um, and in Kindle form, it's 580 pages. On audiobook, it's 22 hours and 18 minutes. And it's about Benjamin Rush, who was a founding father that I really have heard nothing about, but apparently he was also an influential physician who uh, had played a prominent part during the yellow fever epidemic and a bunch of other health crises at the time. Apparently, he was an abolitionist, um, and he was very influential. Just he was not allowed to have a lot of his letters pass on or get published or anything because he knew too much about both Adams and Jefferson because of all the very personal letters about very personal habits they would have sent back and forth to him. So they nixed most of his writings being published at the time, even though apparently at the time he was actually given a level of importance equal to or greater than a Benjamin Franklin, which is fascinating because I've heard absolutely nothing about him. So I really look forward to listening to this book. I believe I might also have the corresponding Kindle version, so if I want to flip back and forth, I think I'll be able to. But yes, the reader for this sounds like he's easy to listen to. I'm not trying to rush into listening to it very quickly because we are still in quarter 2 of Historathon, and this book can last me the rest of the quarter if I needed to, as well as going for Big Book's summer read along. The last one that I told myself I wasn't going to start until I finished something else, but I lied. And I'm glad that I decided to start it. This is Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. I actually read this before, but not this version. I have read previously I'd read the shortened version. I can't bring the word out of my head right now. But this is abridged. I've read the abridged version in the past. I think I read it when I was in high school, but I don't think I actually read it for high school. I think that I picked it up and I'm not sure if it was a reading list and I just chose to read that, but I don't remember writing a report on it or anything. But I remember thoroughly enjoying it in high school, and that was before I even had listened to the Les Mis musical, which I absolutely love. 10th anniversary cast for the it was a 10th anniversary cast concert. Amazing. You have Lea Slogna as Eponine. I can picture a bunch of the cast. But you have the originator of the role as Jean Valjean. The guy they have to play Javert, amazing voice. Just 10th anniversary cast, in my humble opinion, is the best Les Miserables musical cast. But I keep saying, because I heard that there's a lot, the reason why they tend to abridge this book is that Victor Hugo went on a lot of side tangents with Les Mis in its original written form. So I was like, I need to eventually read that. Oh boy, does he ever go on side tangents. There's points where you have to force yourself to focus because he just kind of goes off on some sort of philosophical thing that's just off in left field somewhere. Or he'll cover some sort of, apparently he's going to cover something about Wellington and Napoleon at some point. And I don't know why I always thought that this was written during the Revolution. This is actually after the Revolution. I had always thought it was during the Revolution, French Revolution. So that's interesting. But in retrospect, when I think about it, I remember the anti-clerical sentiment mentioned in certain parts of the book, which does fall more in line with post-French Revolution than pre-French Revolution. So yeah, I do look forward to going farther in. I actually made quite a bit of progress, considering the first day that I read this, I got 125 pages in. Now, this book is over 1,400 pages long. I'm currently on page 171. I'm finally getting to the point where we really are focused on the plot. talking about, we were talking about Monsieur Madeline, and I don't want to go too much into that in case you have not or are not familiar with the book. Fantine has come into it. I love how much the book goes into the bishop, and I'm not sure if the abridged version goes quite into the bishop as much as the unabridged. I can't remember. It's been too long since I've read the abridged version. But I did really enjoy all the focus on the bishop at the beginning of the book. You almost forget that Jean Valjean is going to be your main character, because long before you meet Jean Valjean, there's this huge section that's purely focused on the bishop, which is kind of interesting because Victor Hugo could have written a book on the bishop, and I think I would have been still very much drawn in, because he does a very good job, in my opinion, of drawing this character up. And the person who wrote a biographical section on Victor Hugo at the beginning of the book in the introduction, I think he did Victor Hugo a disservice in claiming that he doesn't draw his characters out very well, of just saying that Jean Valjean and Javert are more like, that they don't have a lot going on personality-wise, that they're kind of there to represent ideas, for lack of a better term. I think that's unfair to those characters. I think that characters are written in a slightly different way sometimes, but these characters are still they have quite a bit going on, and it might be that I have a slightly different perspective, having had the exposure to the musical and stuff as well. But I think that claiming these characters don't have depth is not reading enough between the lines and looking at things only at a surface level. I think if you get absorbed into the book, there is quite a bit of character going on in this book. So yeah, the stuff is going to start heating up pretty soon. I should be seeing Javert come in very soon, and that's where really the action is going to heat up. And this book, I didn't realize it was, or I didn't remember, it's broken up into character sections. So you have the first part of the book is Fantine, then you have Cosette. And by first part of the book, I mean like it really is almost like a book unto itself. Like Fantine's section is almost 300 pages, and then Cosette goes for almost another 300 pages after that, and then you have Marius's section, which I think is probably about as long as that before you go on to Saint Denis. So I guess it's a character I don't really remember, or if I do, I just don't remember the proper name. And then Jean Valjean, he finishes up the book. So that's interesting. I really look forward to continuing this. Basically, this is the book that I grab when I head to the bathroom, because the sections aren't very long within the book. So it's very easy to read a little bit and then put my marker down and continue, which means I make more progress in this because I can read a little bit at a time. And I love my little ribbon marker for this. So that is my big update for Big Book Summer, for the June wrap-up, I guess, for lack of a better term. I have other ones I'd like to read this coming month, but we'll see how much I get done, because I do have other books that I need to read for Historathon that are not big books. So we'll see how it goes. I'll just sort of play that by ear. Thank you very much for joining me for this update on Big Book Summer for June. Hope to see you for the next video, and God bless. Bye.